We live in this unsustainable world. It'd be great if we just lived like cavemen and maybe our hormones would be perfect. We don't live there. We drink coffee all day to survive this lifestyle. Your body doesn't make caffeine. Your body does make testosterone. Let's evaluate where your levels are at.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, Mike, before we start, it's going to be story time. I've got to know you a little bit better over the last couple of days, so that's been great. What I want to start off with is thanking you for supporting the podcast. And because it's been a few years, I don't know how long now, you may know better than what I do. But at the time with the content, with elitefts and the strategy that we were when we got together, I had to make some decisions in regard to streamlining our content because the cost of the content was far exceeding what was bringing in from that. So I had to figure out what to do with the podcast. And it was something I wanted to continue with, but it was something I didn't know if I could continue with.
Sure.
Because as everybody, well, maybe they don't know, but as you know, content's not cheap to produce, right? And so I believe I was speaking to Smokey at the time, and we were going back and forth, and he offered it up, and it's like, well, thank you, but, there's always a but.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you do,
Sure.
right? So run me through this, and let's see what it goes like. And I've been fortunate to work with Dr. Serrano since the 90s, so I'm kind of like covered, right?
Sure.
So it's like, well, let's see what this is. So I went through the intake process with Jiraiya. He's been working with Jiraiya the whole time. And the labs and everything associated with it, from the consultation after the labs, the recommendations, and the coaching, and then I take it to Serrano and everything. I didn't even know this existed.
Sure.
Right. So it's kind of weird because it was actually really weird, right? Because what I expected was, in the past, there used to be companies that I would call Test Club for Men.
This is where I come from.
Yeah. Okay. There'd be like this, I would get a hold of Brad, then Brad would send me like a form that I had to sign. And then there was a business card from some doctor that maybe I didn't even know was real.
Yep.
And then every now and again, Brad would send a text like, "You need anything?" And then I would call, and the guy's name wasn't Brad. I'm just making up the name Brad, or maybe I'm not. And then he'd say, "Okay, what do you want? D-ball test." I was kind of expecting that. So from the sponsorship standpoint, I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this is going to be a good thing.
Sure.
Let's run through this. But then I have to get this physical and all this other stuff. And then
there's hurdles,
it impressed me because I didn't know this existed, this whole telehealth type of space. And then the recommendations were all dead on. And I'm sold. Let's figure this out, because this is a great thing, because I've taken for granted the relationship that I've had with my doctor over this whole period of time. And you would like that for everybody else, for all the listeners and all the followers. And it existed, and I didn't know it existed. And now I'm like, yeah, let's, so thank you for that. Right. But thank you for the service, right, is great. And so we'll get into that, what kind of sets Marek apart.
Sure.
Because this isn't just like a sales type of thing for Marek, because I've seen what other companies do. I've seen some of the newer companies that have kind of popped up, and I know what existed before, which I want you to expand on that a little bit, because it had to be more than what I saw. But I kind of think it was just some dude selling black market shit out of a basement. And I don't know how they got away with it, but I wasn't going to complain about it. I also got free syringes if I ordered over $500, which was kind of a cool little plus.
Good bonus.
Service
there.
So thank you for the support, because I don't know if the podcast would be here today if it wasn't for Marek jumping in, because you were the first.
Yeah.
Right. And the first also provides a strong anchor for others to be able to come on and proof of concept, right? To be able to come on. And I'm grateful for that, right? And I think the listeners are grateful for that because I'm not going to lie, it was on that chopping block because this takes a lot of my time, to be able to do that. So out of all the content we have, this obviously takes more of the time than anything else.
Is this what you enjoy most?
It's what I enjoy most. And, through Marek and through the other sponsors, it's become, I don't want to say a revenue stream, but it pays for itself.
For sure.
And I'm cool with that, because I founded the company with the vision just to bring other voices to light that I thought needed to be heard, and you remember, because we've been talking, you remember the website from years ago, is I wanted people to have access to the best coaches that I thought that could be able to elevate their level, so I've always seen the company, and my role is I elevate others. And if my name got bigger than somebody else's, I quit writing articles or I quit posting blogs so I could elevate those other people to put them out there so more people could be exposed to that, and you've been around a long time, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, which is weird because now it's a little bit more inverse, which is why you need to get out there a little bit more to where people want to see the founders, because they want to see what the values that are represented behind the company. So now I kind of have to be out there and I can't pull back the way I used to in the past. But in the past, everything changes. So you've seen how that kind of orients. And so I am grateful. I am extremely grateful for your support.
Well, you're incredibly welcome. And for me, before we get into the background and stuff, like for me, it's a complete honor. So I brought with me here my childhood best friend and elite FTS. And your articles on T Nation and studying the training logs, this was our life. This was our dream. And really, like, my pursuit, I didn't know what it would turn into. I tended to follow my passions and interests when it came to career-wise. Obviously, I did some stuff I wasn't very passionate about just to get by. But being able to sit at this table, for instance, with you guys, work with you guys, be a sponsor of this podcast, have guests come through and also talk about their experience with Marek, it's amazing to me. I feel super grateful. Honestly. Yeah, it's amazing.
So how, when you were reading the articles and all that, and you're a meathead, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, what meathead things were you doing?
Oh yeah. So like I started out weightlifting when I was 13, 14, 15, because I didn't want to get beat up anymore. Right. I wanted to get some stature so people aren't going to fuck with me a little bit. Right. And then you find an outlet through that. I didn't really play team sports or anything along those lines. So that was like my physical activation. And, we started training Strongman. I had the opportunity in Michigan to train with a really good crew. Now, they didn't talk to us for a year, and my name was Sally. But it was an amazing experience, and we're training together every Sunday. I'm working with pros, Jared Spybrook, America's Strongest Man. He's a legend. I'm working with Mike Caruso. This guy's going on to World's Strongest Man, and we're just young kids, and we're trying to get after it. And we're learning what it means to grind. I'd never had a father figure, right? So it was like learning how to be a man in certain ways or how to push yourself. So for us, for myself, it was just an obsession in progress. It was one of the things that I had in my life that was an outlet for. I could do tangible progress in steps. It wasn't always linear, but it was a physical challenge in how do I improve? So I became obsessed with researching training logs in journals instead of just the magazines where it's showing the top bodybuilder is drinking this pudding. This pudding is changing his life, and so is this bodybuilding split. No, that's not what they're doing, right? Or at least it's not suitable for me.
Yep. And all the tennis shoes.
Yeah. So it was exploration, and I'm walking around with my Elite FTS beanie. I got my Converse on. I got my Elite FTS belt, which I still have today. The first belt that I ever got from you guys. And it just became my life. And I'm so grateful as an organization at Marek. We're obviously very cross-functional, jiu-jitsu and other forms of athletics, but I think we really do have an anchor in the strength world and in the bodybuilding culture. And that's where we come from. So, we'll get to this stuff, I'm sure, but Derek and myself, we wanted to create a company and a culture that we wish existed for ourselves. There wasn't an outlet besides entertainment or media, which he was very successful at, to make a career out of this field. If you weren't a medical doctor or you weren't in the med device space, how do you make a career out of this? And there are a lot of guys that are passionate about it. They're experimenting. They're obsessed with how compounds can alter your physiology, right? And I think it's just beautiful that we've been able to create so many jobs where people can express their passion and skill set through a vehicle. It really didn't exist.
So what were you doing at the time for work, for money?
For work. So I started, I'm a college dropout, barely got through high school. I started working as a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer. I worked in a big box gym at Lifetime Fitness. And for me, it was heaven. I had my cafe. I got to train at night. I got to be a personal trainer. And through that, you know, in those settings, you have to learn sales and service. You're not getting spoon-fed clientele. So you really had to recognize and learn that, hey, the only way I make a living is hunting and eating what I kill. I have to be self-reliant. So I think, you know, I've never had a salary in my life through any.
This commission only?
This was commission only. I've never had a salary in any of my jobs. And I wanted to keep it that way to keep me hungry and honest for growth. And training was my first exposure to that, because at a young age, looking back, I'm very grateful for that path, because, and especially being a dropout of college, like, of course I would have wished I had a cushy salary or something to keep me locked in and feel like I'm really advanced at a young age or something along those lines. But this taught me I am Mike Incorporated, and I have to offer value in this world, and I have to talk with people and connect and understand their needs, and I will be rewarded for that. And I have to find a skill set that is valuable to somebody, and I need to transfer it to them. So that really is the origin, is just being a trainer. And funny enough, how I got into the industry.
Well, with the sales, I'm interested because it's one of my first jobs was sales for.
What did you do?
Bally's. What was memberships, but I wanted to do the training. They wouldn't let me do the training. And then the guy who hired me was so good at sales, I quit without even knowing I quit, but they sent me to, I remember the sales training class, and everything was time commitment, spouse, and money. You know, so it worked for me later when I went into personal training someplace else, because I had everything boiled down to those 4 objections. Did they send you through any sales training course?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, okay, the first place I applied was like a well-known chain, like a 24-hour fitness. I didn't get the job. I was like heartbroken. I'm like, I'm not good enough for this. What's going on?
You know all the Weeder principles and they didn't hire you?
Yeah. Why? I'm the best trainer out there. What are you talking about? So that was a blow immediately. And then I just put my hand out there for, again, like, let's just say like a Lifetime Fitness. And that I was 18 years old, and that was the mecca of being a personal trainer if you weren't in like a strength gym. And I didn't have any accolades or credibility in that world yet. So this was an opportunity for me to build it, wear a cool trainer jacket, again, have the cafe. You feel like a big shot when you're in those gyms. But they actually had a pretty intense interview process. One thing I will say, I'll get into that, but like, throughout all my jobs and experiences, even if I hated it or it wasn't aligned, I always found nuggets that have helped me where I'm at today. Like lessons I'm learning in real time or exposure that I didn't recognize, but it pays dividends in the future. So in this job interview, day 1, they said, okay, I need you to go close an appointment. That's your interview. Go on our gym floor, show me that you can get people to sign their name and number and commit to some assessment. And I'm like, okay, I better get talking. I really want this thing. So I like that. I'm glad that I was.
Yeah, but did they train you?
They did train us. But for the most part, they're talking about physical training concepts. You have to have all your certifications. I went to a program called MPTI, and it was a 6-month course where I was in there 5 days a week. 4 hours of the day was curriculum. The other 4 hours of the day was actual working out and programming.
Okay, but it wasn't sales training.
It wasn't sales training. No, so I just had to learn how to be personable. They would do some sales tactics. Every Friday we do a huddle and things along those lines. But really, you just had to communicate with people.
Okay, well, the reason I asked is because that original training that I had still carries through to everything that I do now, because it was formalized sales training. But it was also health club sales training, which is high pressure, type crap.
With the credit card swiper.
Oh, yeah.
With the ink overlay on it, in the card.
Yes. I would have to break down how much, if it came down to money, how much money they were spending getting themselves out of shape compared to how much money they would spend for the membership and then how much they're actually saving.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of, I didn't like that. It was kind of dicey. If I had to go that far, they weren't going to stay anyhow, which is probably why I talked myself out of the job because my closing rate could have been better had I been doing more of the hard sell.
Well, the thing about that, like sales is weird, and it's a weird terminology that I think a lot of people associate with like high pressure or used car salesman. But like the way that I think about sales is, somebody raises their hand to say, hey, I am interested in making this change in my life. I'm interested in this service or whatever. And really, when it comes to good sales, a lot of times it's just consultative. Like those tactics you learned is helping them restructure their budget and think about this investment differently. So I look at sales as really like an investigation. It's a deep dive needs assessment. Understand the person next to me. You did raise your hand. Therefore, it's my job to help you flush out with clarity what that goal is. And if I have to push you over the edge, that's my duty. You need somebody in your life to help you do that. You did raise your hand. So I think about it in that context, but I know there's a lot of people that are scared of it. But I would say sometimes the best coaches make the best sales representatives at the end of the day. I think it comes down to the intent of the person.
So where did you go from there?
So where I went from training, that's when, I graduated high school, went to MPTI for 6 months to learn personal training to get certified, started working as a trainer. After about a year or so, I decided, man, maybe I should go to college. Did community college for a year, retook the same chemistry class 5 times. And I'm like, all right, this isn't for me. So I went back into personal training again, this time running like boot camps, a smaller boutique that was a part of a physical therapy chain in a downtown environment in Michigan. But this gave me exposure to running classes. And what I learned from that is that I had to be the host of this experience, whether it be stay-at-home moms or whatever. And I had a responsibility to curate the energy. And I also had to work with a framework for the training of the day. But with 10 people, I had to make adjustments on the fly while allowing people at a more advanced level to progress. And then the other ones to be a little bit more rudimentary. Priority A is don't get anybody hurt. But that's where I went. From that job, I was competing in Strongman at an amateur level. That was the one strength sport that I really loved and I competed in actively. And when I was a trainer, I had friends that worked at a HRT clinic. And this is 12, 13 years ago. And I didn't even know these existed. It wasn't really telemedicine. Sometimes they would do some telemedicine, but it was basically in the bottom basement of an office warehouse. And you have to know somebody to get in. Well, I started referring a lot of my personal training clients. A lot of them were, men in their 40s that were at a high level in their career. They played college football. They haven't really trained since, but they were very motivated and driven. They're signing up for personal training, and I realized the impact of diagnostic or evaluation and what their hormone status could look like. So I started referring a lot of my personal training clients to these facilities. They started having great results. I look better as a trainer. I am actually serving these people.
They were actually doing diagnostics?
They were doing diagnostics, yes. So we did do, this is where I ended up learning the trade for mentors and then evolving these protocols. But I referred so many clients and my clients were ecstatic and happy about it. And they offered me a job. They said, hey, would you like to be a health coach? It was called a patient care coordinator at the time. And I was like, I can do this for a living? This is what I'm really interested in. I'm on Arrowhead learning about nutmeg and caffeine and anything that can have a alteration in your chemistry or affect your performance. This is my passion and I love lifting. This is the coolest thing ever.
What had led you to become well-versed on the hormone and diagnostic side in the first, because the average PT doesn't just go down that rabbit hole, right? But you were already kind of there. So what had led to that?
Yeah. So this might be a good highlight for.
Well, what time frame was this?
This was like 2010, 11, 12.
Okay. So being young. Purple was still popular.
Yes. With blood pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a badge of honor.
Yeah. Then it was.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay.
Well, here's the story. So look, I've always been like a DIY kind of guy. And I learned lessons the hard way. And when I was young, I was in my early 20s, 19, 20, 21 years old. I don't recommend this. This is just the path that I went down. I started experimenting, right, with performance enhancing drugs and testosterone. That's what all my heroes were doing. Why not just start going there from the get, you know? And I got myself trapped. I was so inexperienced. I had no guidance. I actually went to this clinic first. I heard about it to get off of testosterone. I realized I was in over my head. I'm too young. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe this is not a good decision that I made on my own accord. I couldn't find doctors that would work with a 19, 20-year-old that is using testosterone and wants to get off. All they would say is just get off. I could have just stopped and recovered, very likely.
You wanted to get off?
I wanted to get off.
So what went wrong?
Like, what are your, I would have gave you so much shit if I was part of your crew.
Well, listen, this is where it goes. Listen. So I go to this clinic and I'm thinking, oh my God, these guys actually specialize in hormones. They're going to be able to help me out. I go there and your reaction was the doctor's reaction. He was like, hold on, Mike, people don't come here to get off of this stuff. They come here for this protocol. I think the best thing in your situation is just continue testosterone. We'll add some growth hormone to it and then we'll reassess in a while, right? That was my experience. I was just somebody that got in over my head when the internet, there was obviously information out there, but there wasn't social media like there is today, even in this day and age, right? There's younger and younger people exposed to this information at a higher level, and they might choose to go down that path.
I'm so confused how you can be a 20-year-old, you know, blasting shit and think that you're in over your head. Like, what part of your DNA?
I don't know.
I mean, you're responsible. That's not right.
I was nervous.
About what?
I thought that there was trade-offs with this. Is this really crazy? I didn't understand any of that. I didn't get that. And what I found from that is like, who can I lean on? Who can I trust? Is there anybody out there that has these answers or is willing to work with somebody in my shoes and explain it properly? I knew about PCT. I thought perhaps I could actually get on a PCT protocol from this clinic, perhaps.
Yeah, but we are telling everybody those are stupid and worthless.
That was my path, Dave. That's where I was at. And I don't regret it because ultimately it led me to where I'm at right now.
Is this for real?
It's God's honest truth.
I'm like asking his best friend over here because this just does not sound right.
He was there. He was there with me. This is my best friend.
Yeah.
From high school. He was there with me.
Wow.
This was, I'm a weird guy.
All right. So no, I mean, it speaks to where you're at now. I mean, it really does, right? Because it's,
were you getting results from the testosterone?
I was getting results, but we were doing dumb protocols. We were not smart. We didn't understand half-lives. We didn't understand the compounds. I was listening to a guy named Spoon that was at an MMA gym.
Yeah.
And I'm taking chances.
So you're in great hands.
I was in great hands. I felt I had enough awareness to say, Mike, maybe don't listen to these people. And maybe you're playing with something that could have some downsides. And are you sure you want to do this? So it wasn't all balls to the wall. I had the cockiness and confidence to want a shortcut. And then I got a little nervous about the choices I was making. I don't advocate this for other people. I'm just chiming in on my experience because it's real. And this is what led to these evolutions and some of the companies I'm a part of, what we're trying to preach, at least just giving information and having that information be accessible.
So what happened after they changed that protocol? I assume you started getting stronger.
Well, I just stayed on TRT forever.
Yeah, well, I know that, but they added the growth hormone and they started.
I couldn't afford the growth hormone.
Okay.
No, I just realized there is no help for you, Mike.
Yeah.
You just got to choose what you want to do. That was it.
So then how did it progress from there into?
So fast forward. So I was working at these different clinics. And again, this is 10, 12, 13 years ago. Telemedicine wasn't really a thing. There was clientele. A lot of them were police, fire, military, and it was kind of like a private thing that you don't discuss. And then a lot of them were seasoned lifters. And some of them were coming for genuine hormonal health, but a lot of times in the industry, and I'm not judging it, it just is what it is and where the environment that I was in, they were coming for legal, quality, monitoring, feeling good about what they're taking. But a lot of them on the performance aspect, they might look amazing. They're vascular. They have a body that they like, but they want to progress. And a lot of these clientele were taking not just TRT, they were taking much higher dosages of test for TRT.
Mm-hmm.
They were using other anabolics that were able to be prescribed at the time, like Anavar and Nandrolone, phentermine and stimulants, and they feel amazing from that, but they're on that protocol perpetually. Mm-hmm. So even though they look amazing, they're on that protocol perpetually from year 1 to year 2 and year 3. You're not seeing any physical changes when you evaluate them. You're seeing their HDL in the tank. You're seeing issues on diagnostics that you could just say is not a big deal, right? Because you don't feel the impact of it. But what I realized is, and it costs money. This costs more money than just buying it off the street.
I've been training for over 4 decades now, and keeping track of all my training metrics has always been a big part of that. It wasn't until later on that I realized that keeping track of your internal metrics are just as important, if not more important, the longer you're in this game. Most primary care physicians, if you go in for any type of issue, they'll look for what's off, but they're not necessarily looking for how to optimize where your labs are for where you want to go. That's where Marek Health comes in. Marek Health does advanced blood work with medical providers around the world and a health coach who helps build a plan around your goals. I worked with Marek to build a custom lab panel for this show. They have guided optimizations that can help you set you up with a health coach to be able to work through what your goals are, from the prescriptions to supplements, just the whole deal. Don't have to do that. You can just do the lab panels. They have options. You can find this at marekhealth.com/tabletalk for 10% off your first order. One of the best decisions that I ever made was to partner with Marek. So I highly suggest you head over to marekhealth.com/tabletalk and get started today. I know, but I would assume, because I was that demographic, that they're going. The main reason they're going is for it to be legal.
Sure.
In case anything happens. So they're buying the test and stuff from you guys.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're buying all their other shit from the guy in the gym.
Sure. Supplementary.
You know? But if anything ever was to happen, it's like, here, I got a prescription.
Insurance
would that be
policy.
most of them?
It would be a large percentage.
Okay. Yes.
A large percentage.
So when it came to the diagnostics, did they even care?
The diagnostics, I mean, they did care. Again, I'm not going to make judgments on this clinical practice. Like, their genuine interest was to add value to customers' lives.
Yeah, of course.
But it was also a business, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there was value to the diagnostics. I learned a lot from it. But what I found is working with these clients is most of them outsourced all their information to clinics like ours or bro scientists or people on the internet, and they're just going to follow the protocol. I found, and they're spending significant money on this and not noticing much change. I noticed that if I can work with some of these people, let's say they want to gain an extra 10 pounds of muscle, but they're holding a lot of body fat and they're using all these drugs, their weight is just going to increase. Their insulin sensitivity is shit, right? We're seeing this on the diagnostics. Can I convince you, Dave, to pull back a little bit, and maybe we do a maintenance phase and try to improve your health markers, your general health? We pull back some of these things. And if you can do that in 3 months, here's a carrot on the stick for you, the novelty that you really want. And if they would follow that suit and take some advice, take a step back, generally when you added back in these ACE cards or these supplementary drugs, they started seeing progress again, because it's not just pure linear when it comes to these substances or growth in any asset. And what they found is that their lab markers actually looked better for the first time. So this was like a conversation piece, right? Of how can we work together, alter your tactics and your philosophy a little bit, and how do you stay in this long term?
Sure. I mean, that's a great example though of like meeting someone where they're at, like with the market the way that it was at the time. What you have to offer is just has to be a little bit less bad than the thing they're going to do on their own. Yes. Or the guy in the gym is going to say, like, just add 200 milligrams of tren or whatever. So,
well, you are pinning that time period perfectly, because I am the demographic.
You are the guy.
So they were going. I mean, we were looking for the cycles from other people online, right? And I don't know if that time I was having other people look at my labs. I just didn't care about the labs because they were bad, but not bad.
You didn't have Serrano at the time?
Well, I did.
Okay.
But they were bad, but not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I had to wait till it got bad,
Yeah.
right? Then we had to make a lot of changes, which took 3 years to be able to unravel the fucking mess. But I didn't care. But it speaks to that time, because timing's everything, right? And even with Marek, the timing, everything, it's like great timing, because it just did start around that time where people were seeking out people on YouTube or different coaches for the protocols, or maybe it was their nutrition coach, which they weren't really going to for the nutrition. It was because they had some secret cycle, that they were being able to, so they were outsourcing, as you said, for that. So you were seeing this happen.
Yes.
Right.
In practice.
Interesting.
And I'm trying to build a career, and I'm trying to be valuable, and my head's down in research.
Yeah, but that had to be hard, right? Because you're fighting against these other people who are online.
Yes.
That have, I don't want to say credibility, visibility.
Sure.
Right. More visibility, and trying to compete with them. With the protocols.
But I think, and you got to understand, all of this was in person. These were in-person clinics, and I'm sitting across the table and I'm building a relationship and some rapport. So one aspect is I'm trying to build a career here, and I'm also trying to learn these practices with our providers. And I'm trying to make this, even though it's not my clinic, I'm trying to make it elevate, right? In its audience and its value. So if I'm able to talk to a customer, and budgets do flux, and they're spending a lot of money on this, there might be a period of time where, hey, I'm really stressed out because I don't know if I can keep affording this. Can you guys give me a discount? Okay, I get it. You're going through stress. Rather than a discount, what if we try something, Dave? What if you don't need to be spending this much money? Would you be happy if I could give you more results and you spend less? And guess what? For a quarter of this year, your labs might look reasonable. How does that sound? Let's try it. And then that starts to build value, right? They're going to talk to their friends, and now they're more open to thinking, maybe I don't need to pull all these levers that I thought I needed. I feel like I am making progress. And you know what? When I do this only once a quarter, or 2 times per year, it actually is exciting again, because I'm doing something fun. I value this supplementary medicine, let's say, and I can only use it twice per year, let's say, because this was the clinic's guidelines, not mine. I value that period more, and it's more exciting to me.
What was drawing them into the clinic in the first place? Because your clinic is going to have something going for it that Jim Bro or whatever over here, like the person over here is the devil on the shoulders being like, just add 100 milligrams more.
For sure.
What was drawing them in over here that kind of outweighed that?
I would say, so again, this is a clinic I worked at a long time ago. This was just what that place was. I want to be clear about. Obviously, America is very different than that through these learning experiences. But I think what drew them in is just network, because we didn't have social media to the same degree. And because we didn't do telemedicine, it relied on people at the clinic, whether it be the owner, whether it be the representatives or health coaches. We had to go out in the community. And Dave, like you and I talked, and you're in Ohio and I'm from Detroit, and we have a lot of similar circles that we've encountered. So really it was just about us getting out into the world and letting them know, hey, did you know this type of clinic exists? I heard about it, but I've never met somebody.
Well, timing wise as well, that wasn't the powders were just starting to come
for home brewing
so it wasn't at full force. So finding stuff was a problem.
Yeah.
Right. So they're also coming because they can't find stuff.
Sure.
Right. And
and funny enough, so I don't know if it's funny enough, because these people and you are these people. A lot of these people are very successful in their careers, and they might be in finance, but they have this background in powerlifting, right? So they do have more funds, but they have a career at stake, right? And they have spouses, and their spouses are concerned. And how do you justify this? At least you're under a provider's care. And even though I'm saying these clinics were a little different back there, I'm not saying that they didn't care. And I'm not saying they didn't practice medicine in a way they felt was reasonable, good, assumed a risk.
Well, they didn't want to go to jail.
They didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
But I think things lead with good intent. Yeah, some people do go to jail, right? And that's a risk. But yeah, that was kind of the background into that. And another thing too is, because you're working with a provider, think about like ancillary items, things like Cialis. So like for us, and you still see these practices carry on to even Marek and other clinics today, something like Cialis or low dose daily Cialis was used 10 years ago, and it was known to improve your vascular health. It was known to improve your blood pressure, your pumps in the gym, perhaps. It's only now becoming part and parcel of like a longevity or a optimization protocol. So a lot of this information, when you mention this to somebody, they say, I've never heard of that aspect before. And because you're working with a provider and you're working with these compounding pharmacies, you can get these ancillary items, or even like injectable carnitine. And I think John Meadows is somebody that really popularized that use. Injectable carnitine's been around longer than that. It's been around for a while. So by being a medical infrastructure and having access to this, you could start getting creative in your protocols, and then you could get creative with learning anecdotes about certain substances and other effects that it has with diagnostics. Because most people that are exploring, or at least at that time, with those substances, they're not really tracking their labs. Yeah. So by having that integrated, even though it was imperfect, you started to learn some things, right? Even supplements that you're told are going to improve your HDL. Are you even tracking your HDL? Or are you just buying it and taking it? This, you're starting to see correlations, and you can actually justify if something is just good on paper or it has an effect.
So how did all this lead into Marek then?
Yeah, it led into Marek because like I really enjoyed my time there. I learned a lot. I ended up leaving the industry to pursue other careers. So for a period of time, I got into industrial machine sales. So I was just talking to Chris Duffin the other day too, because I hated it. I don't care about machines. And I'm driving around going to manufacturing plants, walking in there, and I'm like, what kind of lathes you got? Do you need some EDM tooling? But I wanted to learn sales, and I had aspirations for financial targets. But to make it more fun, I would contact people that I knew, like manufacturing. I guarantee I contacted you a million times to say, if I'm going to sell machinery, let me learn if Dave needs anything and how could I work with him? And Chris, I was talking to the other day, because over the last like 10 years, I probably hit Chris up like 5 times with 5 different jobs that I was doing, whether it was machinery sales or manufacturing. And why this is so cool, and I'm grateful for this experience, is now we're working with him, for instance. So it's like everything comes full circle. But I moved into machinery sales, didn't like it, but I learned a lot of great skills that would apply later in my career in business. Didn't realize it at the time. Being uncomfortable, driving, walking into strange environments and just trying to figure it out and engage, figuring out how to sell a boring mill from somebody's plant. You know what I mean? I moved into headhunting and recruiting, executive recruiting. Again, that is a call that is all performance based. You're doing 50 outbound calls a day. You have to be 2 hours of talk time a day. I had a 24-hour job. My manager told me, today you have a job, Mike. You do 2.5 hours of talk time that I'm tracking. You do 50 outbound calls. You do 50 outbound emails. And by the end of the week, you have 2 interviews scheduled. If you don't do that, you don't have a job tomorrow. So this was a Groundhog Day that taught me a lot of resilience, grind, how to connect with people fast. Again, it was not stress management.
Well, these are still all commission based too, which is interesting.
It's always been commission based because, you know, I think I had like financial aspirations, and I knew that without a college degree to earn the kind of money that I wanted, it's going to come from sales and performance. You either have to be a business owner, you have to sell things of value. Like in sales jobs, they can take risk hiring people when they have no guarantee.
Of course.
You either make it or
I mean, the worst thing you could run into that is some places may have a cap.
Yeah.
Which I've never understood.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how I ended up getting my head sales guys now.
Yes.
Is they ended up with a cap. And I'm like, that's dumb. Like, why would you
punish them for being productive?
For being good.
Yeah.
Like, no, now they need to push all their referrals to somebody else. I'm like, you don't need to worry about that here.
100%.
You do whatever you want.
Isn't the whole point that something like that is scalable almost infinitely though? That's
well, it can get to a point where you can't control.
Sure.
And then it just, when you're an individual performer or a producer without leveraging a team, you eventually get capped by your time.
Yeah.
It's literally just trading hours of your time. But if you could do reoccurring services or build a good book of business, maybe retention is much easier and less time consuming. But I like that. But even to make the recruiting fun, I'm in Detroit and we're doing a lot of automotive. We're doing a lot of manufacturing. It's just not my thing. I don't really care. It's hard to connect. So I would reach out to people like Jocko, how can I recruit for your company?
Mm-hmm.
How do I recruit for Chris Duffin?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Elite, are you looking for anybody?
God, those are the worst people, man. The recruiters. They are the worst.
You got it. They're just trying. They're trying their best.
You know, I give them credit, but it's like, come on, man, just stop.
That's why you never contacted me.
Exactly. Well, it's not just you. There's 100 others. I mean, it's a big industry.
100%.
Yeah. So was Marek after that then?
No. So it wasn't. So that was like, if I was to describe like my journey so far career wise, it was started with my passion, training, getting into the medical side, a deviation into non-relevant things I thought at the time industry wise, but it was aspirations of financial growth. I left that. I didn't have a job. What am I going to do? And I had a client of mine from the HRT clinic. He was a client. I had him remember me and reach out and say, hey, Mike, I partnered with a doctor. He has a regenerative medicine practice. So we were doing stem cells, bone marrow extractions, PRP. That was rather new at the time. We want to launch a hormone optimization division and IVs. We have the cosmetics. I remember you from back in the day. What can you do? So I had this opportunity because I had good rapport with a client over a long period of time. He enjoyed the experience. He called me back in. I had an opportunity to lead now. And I got to create a division and add value to their practice.
Well, this is interesting though, because if you're going through this timeline, you got sales.
Yep.
Then you got sales, communications, you have systems, which comes into the industrial side.
For sure.
Right. Then you got HR. Right?
HR and how to interview, how to screen, how to understand bullshit versus truth.
So all this is being built up under this base resume.
Without me knowing. Yes. How it could be applicable in a bigger structure.
Well, how you're screwed if you don't know all that in a bigger structure.
Yes, 100%. You don't know what you don't know. So I had this re-entry back into an industry I loved, and I fell back in love with my work. I crushed it. It was very successful by our terms. This was for about 2 years. I was so excited to be back in the industry. The landscape had changed a little bit. Like, because even back in the day, even though I said a lot of it was people that were already in the performance use community, some of this started changing in those years. It was still like baseball, Jose Canseco, steroids are bad. Testosterone's a steroid. It's bad. Well, your body does make it. So it is useful and it does have a purpose. And why don't we see what your levels actually are? But basically what would happen is I'm meeting with like executives or sales reps or people in finance. What they do value is their cognitive performance. They value their energy. They value their output, their quality of life, their sex drive, and those aspects. So the conversation had to be, how do I have a conversation with a non-strength trainer or PED user, somebody that does not want to inject themselves? That's the last thing they want to do. But how can I convince them to take a look under the hood hormonally and start with diagnostics and then identify gaps to optimization? If your testosterone levels are 200 and you're 45 years old, what are the odds of those naturally improving to a meaningful way, especially when you're not exercising, you're not about that lifestyle? So we got to the point where we're able to have these conversations and get people to accept this use and then to experience the benefits. And then the industry started changing, at least in my little geographical area. Word started to spread like wildfire within these communities that this is great. I don't know what we were so afraid of. My health markers look excellent. They're improving. My quality of life is going amazing. So like that was that intersection at the regenerative medicine practice.
When you step into this division then, and you're kind of given carte blanche within reason, right?
Yeah.
What's your thought process in terms of like, this is where I've come from in my previous role. What do I want to be different now?
Here was my thought process, and that's what leads into where Marek's at today and some of our values. I had experienced way back in the day, legal ramifications, not myself, but some of the owners, some of the physicians getting in trouble, not protecting themselves, for instance. And I just have this opportunity with a well-respected doctor. I'm trying to launch this division. I'm treating it as if it's my own. One of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to legitimize this stuff. And we are actually going to focus on standard medical practices. We're going to be doing SOAP notes, notations for everything that we're prescribing and treating. We're going to have justifications that are real, not manufactured, but ones that are real. We're documenting, we're going to run this like a traditional medicine clinic. I am not the doctor. You are the doctor. We are going to collaborate and come together with a protocol. We are going to see the patient in person together. I'm going to walk them into your office, doc, and I'm going to be right there. And I'm going to be your scribe and your mediator. And when it comes to medications, is putting hard stops. I didn't want to launch for this well-respected provider a PED clinic. So we didn't focus on a lot of those medications that are still being prescribed today and was the basis of those models, because a lot of benefit can be done from bioidentical hormones like testosterone or thyroid optimization, or some ancillaries like some low-dose Cialis. You can make substantial improvements just doing that. And our target audience started to shift away from just performance people to career-minded or mindset-minded, or, you know, different purposes for quality of life improvement. So that was one of the first changes. And that, again, we'll get to it. I won't skip ahead, but that's how things gradually elevated into a practice like Marek has today, which is very well respected in what we do. And we do have the client's best interest. So things started to get technically deeper, more medically sound, more clinically sound, more evidence basis, more training from well-known HRT doctors. Like back then, it was Neil Rouzier was the number one in the industry that was talking about bioidenticals, but providing actual evidence and legitimacy behind what we're doing.
So where are we at on timeline here? Because I'm trying to coordinate this with how anabolics were discussed online, where we can go way back to when you were probably training, Clinton Darden was just going nuts, right? And then he got wiped off of YouTube before cancellation was even a thing. Right. And then everybody kind of learned you don't talk about this. It was just kind of avoided. And then it started to make its way slowly back into the zeitgeist, but it would still get nicked back down again. But where you're speaking right now, timeline wise, where was the zeitgeist with that online at the time? Because it flipped at a certain point.
Yeah, at this time, I mean, if I put it into years, it's probably somewhere around 2016, 17, where I made this re-entry, and that's where regenerative medicine is starting to kick off. So that's the time period.
So it's still not really discussed online at all.
Still not really discussed. Like, I think some of the old forums started to fizzle away. Like, you're not going on T Nation or anabolicwhatever.com as much anymore, right? But I think there was probably less discussion. SARMs started coming around at that time. Peptides, even ones like, even today, some that are used, I mean, they were around 10, 12 years ago.
Duffin was probably, I think, on his private forum. That was about it.
Even back in 2012, 13, I mean, even compounding pharmacies were producing secretagogues. They were doing GHRP6, GHRP2. There was things available. But I think at this time, things shifted in the internet culture way. And I think it was around that time period of SARMs really kicking off. So there was awareness, but you got to understand where I'm at career-wise is resigned to a geographical area. With an in-person clinic, which is legitimized by being a regenerative medicine facility, cosmetic treatments, and then adding on hormone optimization and diagnostics. So my clientele changed. And I'm starting to introduce a different demographic to the benefits, the potential benefits based on their values for improving diagnostic markers, if longevity is a concern, right? Or improving performance in a healthful way.
So now, during that time period, how were the insurance companies with prior authorizations on tests?
So we never worked with insurance at that time. Right. My experience has always been in cash pay, and largely it was due to just you're never going to get it approved from insurance. I think things are changing.
Well, there was a time it was easier.
Sure.
And I think around this time period that you're speaking is when things changed significantly.
Things are starting to escalate around this time. I mean, even if you look, we'll get into this. I won't I know I'm jumping around, but like even the story in the time period where Marek started compared to the last 2 years, the public perception, willingness, awareness has radically shifted on these conversations. But yes, it's an evolving thing. So if we go back to the regenerative medicine, this is around the times of SARMs. We're getting more public awareness for non-strength and performance backgrounds, right? People in finance, people working general careers, they tell their wives about it now. And now we're working with men and women. And with women, you need to advance your understanding. You need to advance your protocols. Women's hormones are incredibly complicated, and you do not want to mess up a woman. You don't want to do that, right? It's touchy. There's a lot going on. So you have to start pursuing higher levels of education. This is when you start going to events like A4M in Vegas, and you start engaging with other doctors that are actually practicing this stuff, and you start compiling evidence and research that you can cite to back up your choice to prescribe certain meds. So this was like the beginning of maybe more legitimizing, at least just in my timeline. This was about legitimizing, and how do you make, I want this thing to last, not just for myself, but it can be a gift for the public. How do we change the narrative from performance and we change it into something that's potentially healthful promoting? And it's not just druggy behavior. This can actually optimize your life. You know,
you're being lied to about strength training. I know, because I've been watching this happen for over 40 years, and it's gotten worse, not better. When I got online in the late 90s, the people that were being sold this crap were the same people that I grew up and trained with. Serious lifters, coaches, and people who just wanted to get strong. So I started writing articles and answering questions. My wife, Tracy, set up the business, and we borrowed $1,000 to put up a website and go to work. That was 1998. Elite FTS was never about building a brand. It was about fixing a problem. The equipment, the articles, the coaching, all of it exists because the people who needed the real information deserve better than what they were getting, and they still do now. If you train, if you coach, if you've ever been handed something that didn't work by someone who didn't know what they were talking about, Elite FTS was built for you.
We live in this unsustainable world. It'd be great if we were all primal and we just lived like cavemen and maybe our hormones would be perfect. We don't live there. We drink coffee all day to survive this lifestyle. Your body doesn't make caffeine. Your body does make testosterone. Let's evaluate where your levels are at. So this was like the conversation at that point in time, at least in my experience.
How did that lead into Marek?
So that led into Marek through heartbreak and disaster, not relationship heartbreak. It led through an implosion of the business outside of my control, right? So the owners of the business, I was on a trip in Australia, the first trip that I've ever taken. Doing a trip, I come back, I find out that we're closing down the company, and I'm panicking. I'm like, okay, well, there goes that. It's time to get back to doing shit that I hate, such as industrial sales. And I couldn't do it. So we decided to start. I had friends that were business owners. They were very successful. I knew the protocols for these clinics and I knew the direction I wanted to take it, but I didn't have confidence as a business owner. I thought I needed experience. So I gravitated towards partners. That gave me some confidence and a little bit of capital to start my first telemedicine practice. That was kind of the next step. So now it's make it or break it on your own. So I had that experience of being able, the blessing to launch a division on my own, hire people, leadership, curating protocols and guidelines, SOPs. I got a little bit of that experience that gave me enough to have the confidence to jump into business for myself, even though the confidence wasn't strong enough to do it solo. I felt I needed other mentors or people to ride along with me in case stuff gets hairy. So that's what we did.
And that was Marek?
That was not Marek. It's another telemedicine company that I believe is still open today, as I understand it. And through that journey, I mean, we were successful in our first year by my terms. Like, it was very successful. Had met Derek online through just communications online. Our clinical...
What do you mean by your terms?
In what aspect?
Well, you said it was successful by your terms.
Successful by my terms, like meaning within the first year, we're doing over $1 million in revenue. For somebody that's never launched a business, to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, we made it. Like, we're doing it, right? Things have changed since then, but for all intensive purposes.
It was proof of concept.
It was proof of concept, and I was so proud of it, and I thought I was going to do it the rest of my life. What happened was I had business partners, and we all broke off, and we each have a piece of this industry today. So they are out there, right? But it just wasn't the right fit for me. I had met Derek, so with our medical director, our clinical philosophies with Derek and my mindset were so similar about risk mitigation, longevity first, what levers can you push at what times for performance without sacrificing all of your health? How do you walk that line of balance, right? So we started communicating online. Derek came on as an affiliate, was largely successful. That's what drove a lot of our success that first year. Brought him on as a partner. Derek and I made the decision to exit those business relationships. Again, no hard feelings. It was an amazing learning experience. We made the decision to exit. And then at the end of 2020, we formed Marek Health. So for me, Marek Health is like the third or fourth iteration. Sure. And that's where we started this specific journey of learning practices and what kind of model we want for the community.
So once you did that, what were your first 3 moves?
First 3 moves were, by that time I had learned leverage, and I learned that within our business, like for Marek is a service-based business. We use tools like medications and supplements and diagnostics, but at the end of the day, Marek's unique advantage is we are consultative service providers who use tools that many other people use the same tools. And some of the businesses in the telemedicine space, I would say there's nothing wrong with it, but there are commoditized parts of our market where it is, we sell this drug, we can prescribe you this drug, come to us for the prescription of this drug, we will validate that, and here is your drug. That's more the commoditized market, and there's a big need for that. That's largely what drove over the last couple of years this cultural awareness and acceptance. Our approach was completely customizable. Each end user is unique. We're going to use whatever tools are at our availability to match your goals. But we are, at the end of the day, it's a service provider. That's what we're all about. And this was during COVID. So we started at a very unique time. And it helped to be able to just sit in my house, not have people call me to do anything because COVID, and just grind on the business. But you asked what were my first 3 moves. Leverage by building a team. Because we are not a widget like a supplement or a product, standardization is tricky. I want my coaches and service providers to have their uniqueness and individuality in their specialties, but we have a product offering that the service needs to meet a standard. So the first thing I needed to do was build a team of coaches, build a training curriculum, build a hiring pipeline, and an education path for them to meet this standardization.
So what does that look like for you? Like during, for a typical week that you're doing that?
So here's one.
That's easy to say, okay, but I get what you're saying.
Okay. So you're right. So one thing maybe I can share as well, because this will be a part of my story and many others. The first part of my career, I'm still working out. I really care about my health. I'm exercising. When I started business for myself, I stopped being healthy. I stopped doing anything besides business.
Well, what you just noted is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I guess I haven't talked about this in this type of format. So slow me down.
I mean, it's a lot because you don't have AI. Like you have to write these SOPs.
You do. So the SOPs came down from, okay, if we have a catalog of, I mean, at Marek, we have access to thousands of different meds. It's advanced, but let's say in the beginning, we have 300 interventions that we use, and there's a SKU item, and we're running a clinical practice. And part of this is giving awareness and training to providers and making providers feel like they are in a true clinical environment and not a doctor for sale environment, right? So we had to start articulating and collecting research, actual evidence-based medical practices for these interventions, documenting them. I need something to provide education to my team members, to my providers, to my clientele. So I have to create these summaries or these profiles. So it's like creating an internal Wikipedia for all things Marek, all things clinical guidelines, all things practice wise. So yeah, maybe I'm making it sound easier than it was. I don't know what to say other than I was just grinding. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's been years of grinding, you know what I mean? And I just had to kill my first business when it was successful, and I'd make the hard call to leave it behind so I could redo all that work. So a lot of the foundation I'd already done at the other company, mm-hmm. and I had to choose to walk away from something that was working, not knowing if the next iteration would work, but I could not continue in that environment. So I had to move on. But it felt like I won.
Well, I get that, but see, part of all of this that you're still not saying is you got to set up a website.
Oh yeah.
You know, you got to set up the marketing, you got to set up the presence, you got to set up and do all these other things, curate the relationships to be able to get the products.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I guess you're right. It is a lot. Like the first hire that we made at Marek, he was he's our CTO now at Marek. He was a technical hire. And this technical hire, again, Marek is a company. It's a company built from the people that wish this existed. So when you meet our team members, you kind of feel that they're a Marek team member. We have a culture, we have a tribe, we practice what we preach. So our CTO was a strongman competitor. We had met on the online space. So he was employee number one. So he helped with a lot of this digital footprint, the infrastructure, payment processors, anything technical that we needed. But because we were a startup, he was also a health coach because he was so well versed in this space at the time. So we had to make do. Believe me, our team was cross-functional. This company, Marek, was started with only organic capital, very little organic capital. Basically, it was we have a month or two of run rate. And what I did is I quickly hired a team, spent basically all of our money on payroll, believing it's going to be successful enough that by month 3 and 4, I have cash flow to make this thing continue. That was the move. So it was kind of like a Hail Mary. I didn't just start with myself. I had already been through that with the little capital we did. I said, we have to assemble a team. We have to assume this is going to be successful. We also had Derek, more plates, more dates. So he brought a lot of awareness and credibility, but it was taking that capital, assembling a team, having the belief that this is going to work. And by month 3, 4, 5, we will get cash flow in the door and we're not going to die.
Did you have a client base that came with you from the old company?
Of course. One of the things I'm most proud of is even to this day, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, when I started in this industry, I still have clients reach out to me left and right to this day to say, Mike, are you still in this industry? They might not know about Marek. They might not know that I'm a founder of it, but they still connect with me. Yeah. I'm proud of that because for me, it shows how far customer service goes, building personal relationships, where with all the access to information today with AI, they would still rather trust their buddy Mike, who never did them wrong and had some sort of impact on them. That's what I'm proud of.
But that's also yet further confirmation of like, this is the right way to do it.
It's the right way to do it. Yes. So like even your question about vendors, again, I maintain my relationships. I don't burn bridges, and I believe in the favor system. And I'm always trying to connect people in my network with opportunities or help. So these things rolled over with me. My lab contact, it rolls over with me. What I did in my last business carries some weight and significance. I'm not brand new. So they're going to help support me, prioritize me, or work with me on pricing, for instance.
All right. So you're year 1, year 2, you're building all this. You're probably also a health coach yourself with all this.
I was, yeah, from the start, the health coach, but what I had to do, like you had this conversation earlier when Phil, and it was about small businesses versus big businesses when it comes to delegation. And really having to cost factor analyze, like, yes, it'd be great to delegate this work, but it's not worth $60K. That's irresponsible. With our setup, we had in mind some scale from the beginning. I had to take imperfect action, and I had to put people that maybe weren't ideal leaders long-term, but they were the best available and they could get the job done. I needed to put them in play so I could focus on other areas of our business. Our business isn't just health coaching. It's health coaching. It's marketing. It's technical. It's an entire provider arm of this business. It's regulatory. It's finance. It's leadership, quality control, back office and fulfillment. So if I'm operating this company, I have to find and put leaders into positions, and I have to create frameworks for them to operate through to be standardized. But I need to spend my time as an operator developing these other pillars, developing leaders to put in there, and then I have to run to the next thing.
Yes. And you're putting these people, this is important to note, you're putting these people in place with maybe a 3-month run rate on that position.
Yeah.
You know, with the faith, you know, that this is going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to assume during this time period, you're not training, right? You're not, which is fucked up. Like, you're not training, you're not eating, you're not sleeping for shit. You're probably not even taking the testosterone as you should take it.
I stopped TRT when we started Marek.
So everything that you're selling, you're not doing, but you can't do because you have to build this thing.
Yes. It became an obsession, and it became like a mandatory obsession to will this to work.
This is what I was speaking to him and Phil about earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
I sacrificed everything, didn't think twice about it. I didn't do a single healthy thing for myself.
And you're in this business.
And I'm in this freaking
right. You get, so how do you sell yourself on it when you're working with other people who are that?
I think you get yourself, or I got myself into a mindset where I said, this is the most important thing. Fuck your feelings, fuck your health. You have to make this survive. And I'm an all or nothing type of person.
I get it, but say he's trying to, you know, you get what I'm saying? Like, your coaches are trying to, you have this great service, present it to you, right?
Yeah.
At that time. And you have access to all these things and know all these things, but that mind's so locked in.
I don't have room for that. I don't even care. I don't have room.
Exactly.
Don't have room.
Yes.
There's no room for that.
Is it a case of it just has to get bad enough that you don't have a choice?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Well, exactly. Right. So we're trying to, we're having this conversation because we want to help people avoid this from happening. But every entrepreneur that I know that's built anything goes through, it's almost like the 20-year-old strength moron has to do all the stupid shit to be able to learn the lessons, where I don't know if it's unavoidable. Like, you kind of like have to go through this, but you really don't, right?
But will you believe it unless you do go through it?
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so as this is going through, and you know it's kind of not the right thing to be able to do, but you got to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's a catch-22, because if you don't do it, then you don't have the business to be able to provide the thing that you want to provide, even though you know what you're doing is what you shouldn't be doing.
It's tomorrow's problem.
When you're in the thick of it, is there any thought process that my current status of self-care, should we call it whatever, is a problem? Or is it so tunnel vision that you're not even aware that it's a problem?
For the first couple of years, it was such tunnel vision, and it was such personal conviction that this is a worthy sacrifice. And even when your friends and family are making comments to you, I turned a little bit more cold, and I treated this like it was life or death, and it was the most important thing. I've since radically changed my perspective and have learned from this. But I have to tell you, like, because there are burnouts that have happened, and there's been a large evolution of myself. Like, business has exposed every character flaw that I have, and the desire to continue what has been started has forced me to confront this weakness on all levels. I would say business has been a vehicle for personal growth. You're forced to face your own bullshit internally. But yes, it was such tunnel vision because I needed to will this to life. It didn't matter. It's probably like someone going to the Olympics and they say in a survey, I'd be willing to die in 5 years if I make it. That was my like deal with the devil. I was cool with it. You know what I mean? That's all I thought about.
Yeah. But over a long enough time frame, it's kind of a positive, right? Because if you didn't build Marek to this monster, and I mean that in a positive way, right? Now you have something that you have to maintain that's a big entity. So now it's like, hey, Mike, you know that thing that you almost killed yourself to create? You have to get better now, otherwise you die along with it type thing. You know what I mean? Like, but if you hadn't
100%.
nearly killed yourself to make it that, it never would have made you step up to the plate, as it were.
Well, what happened to me, for instance, is getting that point of realization through burnout and health issues and just where you recognize finally, oh my gosh, this really is not sustainable. But how do you get off of this treadmill? How do you escape when you have all this responsibility that you just created? You can't exit this ride, even though you finally have a wake up moment where you say, this is unsustainable. And I don't know if this is more valuable than my own life.
What was that moment?
That moment for me was, it's hard to articulate. There was a lot of things going on, but basically it was a couple years into our business journey. And by all accords to our plans, you know, Marek is becoming a successful org. I'm participating in some other companies, and I'm having actual mental issues. I'm having happiness and fulfillment issues. I'm having no relationship with my true friends, no relationship with my family. I'm not present. I'm just connected to this work sphere all the time. I'm not taking care of myself. I'm eating once per day before bed just to gorge myself. I'm taking sleeping pills to try to sleep. I'm living unsustainably, and I'm starting to feel the impact. So I'm going to do a little like a pause for a second. This leads back into me actually totally using Marek as a company in the services, even though I didn't. The end of this story turns out that I needed my company all along as a person and some of the other things that we'll get into. But I started having health issues. So my blood sugar, I wasn't eating, I was fasted. My blood sugar was in the 300s. I could barely function. I started breaking out in rashes. I was getting sick constantly. I didn't know if it was COVID. I didn't know what was happening to me. But I reached this point where I felt you must keep going based on what you started. You can't keep going. You're burnout. And it was an existential crisis. I felt like I had failed. That's what it felt like to me. It felt like I'd failed. And I was in a zoomed in mindset, not based in reality. This is just my own inner dialogue and the way I'm judging myself and shame and success and failure. And I never stopped to celebrate along the way. I was just ready for the next fight. The next thing. I never stopped to smell the roses or really appreciate. Like I should have been, if I got the opportunity, I should have been on this podcast 2 years ago. This is why I did this thing. That would have been fun. No, that wasn't. Fuck that. I got stuff to do, right? I didn't stop to smell the roses, but it led to this impasse. And because I felt that I was stuck on a hamster wheel, I felt something radical was my only option. And this led me into a company that I'm extremely passionate about today. I'm an early investor in. I think it's life-changing. And I decided to do ibogaine treatment, which is a psychedelic medicine at a company called Beyond in Cancun, Mexico.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent, and it's the reason why the podcast is still here now. The podcast is free to listen to, but it's not free to produce. It keeps going because of the sales through elitefts, our show sponsors, but more importantly, our crew members. The reason I love this is for many reasons, is it keeps the show independent. So I can pick who I want to speak to. I can pick what topics I want to speak to, and I don't have to be accountable to anybody. I just go off what the crew members want and what the audience wants, and I don't have to deal with all the other bullcrap that's associated with the podcast world. In return, what you get with the crew is ad-free episodes that are released a day ahead of time. You get access to our Discord community, which has AMAs, like 60 ebooks. We try to put a new ebook out every single month. Access to our coaching community with form checks, training Q&As. It also gives you invitations to our training retreats that are out here in the gym once or twice a year. 76% of all the people that joined in 2022 are still members now. Right now, you can either go month to month or get 2 months free with an annual plan. Just look for the link in the description, look at the QR code, or search elitefts.com crew and join today. It means a lot.
That was my decision.
Where did you hear about that? Because, you know, that's even now, that's something that's like pretty niche and small. So like there must have been someone, you know, have an experience or what?
Yeah. So I'm the weird guy that at 16, again, I made a statement earlier, I was on Airwood studying every different psychoactive, and it was always in my interest. So like psychedelics I had experience with. understood some benefit from it. But the biggest thing that I heard with Ibogaine is that it's Mount Everest. So for me, I'm like, yeah, let's do the most extreme thing. I heard case studies and evidence. There was reports even from Chris Bell around that time. There were other people in small sub niches talking about its potential when it comes to chemical dependencies, when it comes to PTSD and trauma, when it comes to potential health benefits. But I decided to do this as a reset, because that's what they talked about it doing. It resets your neurochemistry, it resets your stress pathways, etc. So I decided to do something radical when I probably didn't need to do that, but why not do the radical thing, look for the quick fix. I did this, and it was one of the most intense. I was unprepared for the experience. It was one of the most...
Is there such thing as being prepared for it? Do you think?
No, I don't think there is, looking back, but it was one of the most intense and life-altering events of my life since then. And it came in unexpected ways.
How so?
Where do I begin with it? So again, this is just my experience. I'm talking about Ibogaine just because it has been impactful to me. And I want to say this, I've been to Beyond like 7 times. Not out of necessity, but what was terrifying at first, I learned to appreciate, and it put me on a path of spiritual growth and connection. And I've been able to witness about 60 people personally that I've been there with, and I witnessed their transformations, all walks of life. Some people for addiction issues, some people for trauma, some people for self-exploration or optimization. There are people that do their first treatment. They don't have any experience with other psychedelics, and they have the most peaceful treatment in the world. You know, they're one with the universe, and it was beautiful. Mine was an absolute hell ride. It was traumatizing to me.
Is that because you had a lot of trauma to unpack though?
Yeah. So like in the end, I've come to realize like it was exactly what I needed, but it was legitimately traumatizing as an experience. I was unprepared that this was even possible to experience. And what I've learned is, or at least for myself, my experience, even the people that go in calm and they have a beautiful experience, your inner state, it is a mirror. It is a reflection of you. And I talked about it last night with Phil, just to explain how I perceive what happened. I've always been driven by fear, anxiety, a chip on my shoulder, not being enough, and anxiety and urgency were my fuels early on in my life. The fear is what drove me rather than reaching for heaven and getting pulled. It was a run from hell. You know what I mean? Upbringing and stuff like that. So like, that's why I had to make this work, let's say, or felt so responsible. The Ibogaine experience for me was years worth of never ending thought loops that could not get processed, all exploding at once, experiencing it and legitimately having terror during it. And there's nothing I can do but sit through it, get through it. And I was furious during this experience. This whole time I was furious, went to bed furious. I'm still under the effects of the medicine. I mean, this lasted, the main part of it lasted like 12 plus hours. The rest of it lasted until the next day. I was plotting my escape from this place. I'm like, I got to get out of here. This was the worst thing ever. After lunch the next day, I jump in the pool. And I finally realized the effects of the medicine finally wore off. And I had never felt better in my entire life. I felt like a little kid. I had peace. I had happiness. And it's only the post of that experience that you can analyze and understand any of the experiences that you just went through and start to integrate them and conceptualize what it was. Because at the time for me, it really was terror. And I've seen other people go through challenging experiences, but I think it goes to show how screwed up I was or what programs I was operating on that prevented me from experiencing the happiness that I could experience. So this was like a transition point in my life in 2022, the end of 2022.
So why do it again?
So why do it again is progress isn't always linear. So the second time I did it, I had slipped back into some other habits or mindsets. But it's a quick realization and you catch yourself. So you do this again. And it was still challenging, but less challenging. I had a breakthrough where it went from terror to it went to learning. I feel the experience, this might sound, I don't care how it sounds. It just is what my experience was, is that I felt it taught me how to breathe. I felt it taught me what meditation is. It allowed me to get into depths of creativity. I realized for myself, Mike, you're the type of person that if you're stuck on a 12-hour airplane ride and you feel uncomfortable in your body, you either want to run away and escape. And if you can't do that physically, you want to alter the way you feel in order to numb it. How can you be a person that can survive a simple 12 hours in a dark room by yourself? So I started, because I overcame that first experience and I lived, that's what it felt like. It was like a rebirth, is I started to crave the challenge. I started to move into what am I mentally capable of, and how much of my discomfort is just generated by my anxieties. And how can I have some control over that?
What changed in your life after the first experience?
I became addicted to exercise again, started eating healthy. All I wanted to do was feel healthy. So it kickstarted me getting back to the reason I did this in the first place, which was, you love exercise, man. You like eating healthy. You enjoy the gym. Why don't we start doing some of those things again? Fuck your story that you have to commit all or nothing to this adventure. That is going to lead you to misery. There is no finish line. So when it comes to business, for instance, if I'm thinking long term, maybe for points in my head, I thought there was a finish line and I was going to suffer until I got to that finish line. If you're trying to build something that lasts, you realize there is no finish line. You're always going to be working. There's always work to do, and pain is never going to get erased. There's always going to be pain. So how do you just accept and integrate that in your process and give yourself a break and enjoy this experience while you're here too? So I integrated health. I integrated long lost friendships, true connections, started spending more time with my family members and being present, right? Started being more intentional in my life and started to focus on business a little bit less about end results and a little bit more about the impact we're actually making. Quit beating myself up so much about being a perfectionist and I must execute perfectly the first time, and just understand, do the best that you can.
Sure.
Look for resources, look for growth, identify what's coming around the corner that you don't know, but you don't need to live in panic. You don't need to be running from hell at all times.
Sure.
You can use a different form of motivation, which might be a pull towards heaven or purpose. So that for me has been radical. It also, by the way, this leads into how I'm using Marek today. And I talked about some of those health issues that I had. I had a lot of discoveries, but what ibogaine did for me neurochemically or on a physiological level is it was the ultimate nootropic. I've never had more consistent and long states of mental clarity, physical energy, but also calm and presence. It would eradicate my rashes or autoimmune reactions and things along those lines. It improved my gut health. It improved my physiology on all levels. I don't think everybody responds to it as powerfully as I responded to it, but most people do notice they feel like little kids again as a statement. And it's radical for GDNF production and neuroplasticity. And one of the things as entrepreneurs, whether we use substances or not, we can burn out dopamine. Generally, we're low in dopamine and we chase dopamine to give us energy. I know that's my like Braverman assessment is novelty seeking. Like I need that as fuel. So you can either take it in a pill or you could take it chasing novelty, which can get you in trouble. Right. But the ibogaine in my circumstances just helped. And that's why I talk about it. For me, it was just.
Well, how you're describing it there makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's hard to, and I'm speaking to someone who hasn't done this type of thing, right? But if you read accounts and then look at what you'd call neurology of it or whatever, the common kind of theme seems to be that as you go through life, you accumulate experiences and goals and they alter how you look at reality. Like literally, like they tell you what to ignore and what to see and you're not aware of this. And then you do some kind of psychedelic, could be this. And basically what it does is it takes the filter off and just takes the rose tinted glasses off and goes, here's the entire world as it actually is without your lens of experience, you know, whatever we want to call it. And then you have this kind of horizon, I suppose, where it's like, oh, this is actually existence, you can call it whatever you want, right? But you see things unfiltered, or you at least make the realization that things are filtered in the first place, which is kind of an awakening in itself. Is that in line with what you experienced, do you feel?
Very much. But there was so much that I was exposed to at once that it's taken me years to actually truly integrate that into any sort of any sort of perspective that gives me confidence. Because what I will say is I do not think this is for everybody. I don't think it's for most people. I think that there could be dangerous things that happens or you're unprepared. But what I will say is there's downsides of it too, even in my experience, where you start to question reality and you have to deal with that. And you might think, man, am I just this was a profound experience I can't deny. I've never felt more in touch with God, universe, and purpose, but it feels inappropriate to think this way because the rest of the world's not thinking this way. Did I just sign up for some drug cult? Is that what I'm doing? And it's taken years to polish that perspective and integrate what that means.
Yeah, that's, because over here you've got here in the tunnel of creating Marek, right? You're so tunnel vision that your perception of reality is boiled down to this tiny amount of things, right?
Someone taking themselves so seriously.
You ignore family, as far as you're concerned, they almost don't even exist. You don't see them, right? Even if they're there in the room or whatever. And then you've got over here, you've got ibogaine or whatever psychedelic of choice that peels back the filter and says, here is everything in existence. And there's so much there, you can't actually physically process everything at once, which is why we create filters in the first place, I suppose, right? Because otherwise, how do you even know what to look at in a room?
Blinders.
Yeah, you have to have blind. Yeah. So do you see it as I'm getting to the point of why maybe you've gone 7 times, because maybe ibogaine showed you this. And then you're like, well, now I settle here. I see, I am not tunnel visioned enough. I see the world more of what it actually is than I was before. Yeah. And then maybe over time, life pulls you back here and you're like, well, every time you reset, do you find that you settle in a point that's closer up here would be my question.
Absolutely. What it became for me was, yes, there's physiological benefits, which are rad. I think they're rad. I love it, but it's about the spiritual progression and getting more clarity. And like I said, even that first experience, it's been years, but I'm still integrating that. Yeah. And sometimes by re-engaging with that medicine, it's a different experience now. It's peaceful. I look forward to it. It's visionary. It's creative, right? And it's putting me in touch with trusting, this is just my point of view, putting me in touch with my soul and with creation and what it really means to be who I am. What is my ego? When was it created? Why was it created? What did I get unconsciously programmed with versus as an adult now, it's my responsibility to, let's say, reparent and choose my own programming. Yeah. So for me, it's given me more ownership of my life and realizing I'm not a victim. Everything that happens to me in life is for me and it's done by me. Even the painful stuff, I'm supposed to experience that and see that. So it's helped me. It's helped me just temporarily. I'm going to keep growing throughout my life, and this might be a different conversation 10 years from now, but I guess this put me in a path of just feeling okay about myself and my value. I used to think, why did I need this Marek thing to work and go tunnel vision? Is because for me to have any significance or value in life, I had to perform and win trophies. That's what I thought, right? So it's just given me more awareness to what matters. I feel more confident with myself.
One of the things that the way I'm kind of processing what you said here is during those years with Marek, you said you're driven by fear, right? So
run from hell.
Yeah. So that's high stress, right? And then you were presented this situation, which was a way higher stress than the worst stress that you were scared of.
Yeah.
Right.
It was acute stress.
Yes.
Versus the chronic stress.
So then your perception of stress changes.
Oh yeah.
So then when you go back to your normal life, that fear is still there, but it's not metastasizing itself in you with rashes and all this other stuff because you know what's worse than what you thought would have been the worst.
Well, it gives you an experience that you can survive something that I very much thought I wasn't going to.
So your RPE of fear shifted.
Dude, yeah.
Right? Your RPE of fear of that 10 right?
Yeah.
You were pushing like an 8 or a 9, but then you had an RPE that just showed you that your 10 was a 2.
I had no idea it was possible to feel that level of fear.
Yeah. And this is an extremely forward question, so I apologize. But like, do you feel like you're addicted to it? Because I can see how that would happen, right?
Addicted to Ibogaine. I mean,
I don't mean that in the negative sense.
No, I totally understand. So like, I mean, on a physiological level, or what addiction is, whether it be physiological or whether it be psychological, what is the term of addiction? I mean, Ibogaine is an anti-addictive substance when it comes to chemical solutions or even the thought patterns that generate chemicals within us, whether it be overeating or other things. So it's generally anti-addictive. And then I don't know what the frequency definition of addiction is, but I'm not doing Ibogaine every week or anything like that.
It was more by your own definition, I suppose.
My own definition. I don't think I'm addicted. I think what I'm addicted to doing is growth.
Yeah.
And until I get to that point where I don't feel I'm receiving any benefit or there is nothing left to squeeze out, then I would move on to other things. But what this is, what these experiences have allowed me to do is, again, this is just my point of view, is it's allowed me to tap into what I feel is real, whether it be the universe, soul, God, whatever. I'm addicted to that. I'm addicted to operating from that point of view and learning natural methods without substances to tap into those states, to feel that I'm connected to that thread. So this is why, like, for me, laugh if you will, or get on board with it. Things like sauna and cold plunge, they're both challenging. I don't want to do it. I get through it and I feel amazing after. And that creates a chemical factory within me. Things like jujitsu, especially when you're new, you get your ass kicked. I look forward to that now. So I'm most interested now in how far can I push myself in uncomfortable situations, get through it and survive, and learn that just my own brain and my own conscious choice has that power, right? Like, I'm literally in control of those aspects of my destiny, right?
And I didn't mean that in a negative sense here, because psychedelics are probably a bigger part of human history than they have not been. You know what I mean? They've been common in a larger time. I mean, probably a lot of our oldest stories are probably fueled by a lot of psychedelics, right? But I know when Dorian Yates was describing his experience with ayahuasca, or ayahuasca. Sorry, I pronounce that wrong all the time. He described it as like living your life in a room that has like a 2-meter high wall with no ceiling. And then one day you poke your head over the wall and you realize the entire world is outside the wall. Right. And he's like, you can call it addicted if you want, but once you've looked over the wall, how can you not want to see what's out there?
You can't go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The curtain's lifted. But again, I think it's unique to our own journeys. I don't think this is for everybody. I just know, like, beyond, again, company I invested in, I'm super passionate about its growth. It's having a big impact. It was just for me, something substantial. But another thing is, like, even on your podcast earlier, you were talking about, when we're in entrepreneurship, it can feel very lonely. It is hard to relate with other people, or it's hard to connect with somebody that's walked that same experience. You just don't have the privilege or opportunity to be surrounded by them. You got to seek it out, or every once in a while you come in contact. What I did find from even places like Beyond, what I witness is there's a very diverse amount of clientele that will come through there. But largely, they're very successful people, whether it be the arts, whether it be musicians, whether it be celebrities, whether it be the echelons of business achievements. They're all there for different purposes, but they're trying to overcome themselves was the root of it. So I've made tons of friendships there, business partners there. It's just an environment for me that curates access to people that I can learn from, be mirrors towards and mentored by.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help.
And did that make you feel kind of more confident in the decisions and the life kind of choices that you'd made up to that point?
It helped tremendously.
Because you go through this experience and you wonder, like, well, am I just broken? Am I the only person? And then you go somewhere like that and you're like, oh, I'm the minority, but I'm not alone.
Yeah, I mean, half the time I have felt like I'm insane and everyone else is way smarter and I'm living in a delusion. The other half of the time, I think to myself, oh, you're pretty damn smart, dude. And maybe a lot of these people are not so smart. It's neither of those. It's an in-between, you know, there's ego involved with it. But yeah, it's sometimes like I would say now I have a connection to confidence and certainty and truth that I haven't had before, but there's moments of doubt. And it's absolutely powerful sometimes to be validated, at least to know that you think what you thought is very similar to what someone else thought who has achieved or done or experienced something you admire and has actually been there and done it. That can be a relieving feeling sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, I know a very different experience in many ways, but like I had a similar thing when I went to the Shaolin Temple.
Yeah.
You know, there was 80 or 90 of us in that retreat, and you go in there and you're like, where are these people the rest of the time?
Yeah.
They're awesome. And you know, it gives you a little bit of confidence. So like, I have a long way to go, but there are a lot of people on here who I feel are on a similar path and are also being successful, but they also have doubts, and that's why they're here.
100%.
But it just helps. I'm not going to say it makes you blinded or anything, but it makes you a little bit more confident that you are on the right path, even if it's flawed along the way.
And perhaps it gives you some empowerment that you can create this community and tribe yourself. You just got to go search them out.
Sure.
And maybe you have a part to play in that, who you're surrounding yourself with, right? Yeah. Get more.
I may have a little bias here because I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
And to me, this all sounds like you found God.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's all it is, Dave. Maybe that is what it is.
Yeah. So maybe you need to speak to Phil a little bit more.
We do.
Well, I mean,
we do.
It's in that context. I mean, it's impossible question. How do you define God? If
something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
if we look
at
higher powers,
if we look at
why we're all here.
Yeah, of course. But what I mean is, if we say from the neurophysiological side, he takes a psychedelic, it removes all his filters of experience, and he sees the world for exactly what it is. You can argue that's the truest true that there is, because you're looking at reality unfiltered. Someone could very easily say, well, that is God. Could they not? Yeah. Like seeing the world for exactly what it is and your purpose within it. Someone could say, well, for me, that is God. And it would be hard to argue against that, I feel.
100%. I would say I believe in God. And if that's a way that I was shown God, doesn't matter. Or he has ways of accessing or connecting with people that maybe do have walls up, perhaps. But yeah, maybe
the next step is to realize that somebody died for all our sins.
Sure.
Right? So I don't want to get going down.
No, that's a good point.
It's all good.
So how did... Because you alluded to a little bit earlier, and we kind of changed the topic, that this is leading into what you're doing with Marek now.
Correct. Yes. And how the vision changes and how it escalates.
Yeah.
And what that does for the business. So like, for instance, a life-changing event, and I start to prioritize parts of my life that actually are important and they give me joy. And even while I'm building stuff and trying to do achievements and things, there's other areas of life to make it meaningful, right? Maybe those are more meaningful in some ways. So I start prioritizing my health again. I start prioritizing the path that I started and what we do at Marek. I started taking advantage of Marek services, working with Dr. Stephen Campbell, our medical director, working with Andrew Holtztrager. He's a health coach that we have internally. I'm using our services. Like, for instance, some of the things we've found is like I've had chronic fatigue issues my whole life. I've had these weird blood sugar issues, but I'm not diabetic, but I am. Through some of these advanced diagnostics that have come out. Like, for instance, I found out I've been tested for Lyme disease my whole life. We have something, I don't know all the science behind it. We have something called Vibrant Tick-Borne Illness Panel, and it measures like 50 to 100 different strains of Lyme disease. For the first time in my life, I actually tested positive for Lyme through some of this. We're still exploring it now, but perhaps that relates to some of these cyclical chronic autoimmune conditions. I also discovered I have something called the gene expression for what's called MODY diabetes, maturity onset diabetes of the young. Now, this is a genetic expression, and it makes sense of my family history. Any general doctor has not been able to tell me anything about my blood sugar issues. I'm lean. I'm in good shape. I'm not overweight. My insulin levels are low. My blood sugar is high. So we're still experimenting with this, but basically what I found out is it's a genetic issue where you're closer to type 1 diabetes than you actually are to type 2. You're actually very insulin sensitive, but you're not producing it. So when you intake carbohydrates, the trigger to produce insulin is eroded a little bit. Mm-hmm. So why did my blood sugar get so high? I wasn't being active for years. What is one of the most potent glucose disposal agents? Exercise, resistance training, right? Mm-hmm. So I found that I can manage it through exercise, resistance training, living a good quality of life while we're still exploring other solutions. So I'm now fully utilizing our suite of services. I'm getting answers to questions I've had for years, right? I feel the best I've felt in years. We're launching the performance division. We have launched it with Phil DeRue. I'm so excited for that. I actually reached out to Phil. He's been a great partner and affiliate of Marek's for years. I reached out to him last year to work on my personal training and coaching, to get back into jujitsu, get more functional. I'm a novelty seeker. Mm-hmm. Let me have fun with a conjugate method. That's what I used to do back in the day with Strongman. It would be layers of conjugate to keep it entertaining, interesting, variety, right? Intensity. Started training with him, and I'm just flourishing. And we had to offer this to our clientele. So I think, when it comes to Marek's journey, or likely the industry as a large, I think there needs to be an integration of fitness, performance, mental capacity, or strategies to live a good life, along with your medicine, supplementation, and nutrition. So that's what we're trying to build and offer, is package that in one vetted, credible, trusted source. And I'm kind of patient zero for it.
Have you, and it's with your regards to your own person, have you looked into Livogen?
Livogen, is that a peptide?
Yeah, so it's bioregulator technically. But
right, the Russian bioregulator.
Yeah, so this is going to be too in the weeds, but it might be interesting for you, the rabbit hole. It basically acts on chromatin. Okay. So that basically you can make any epigenetic changes at a much faster rate. So when you have genetic mutations or abnormalities like that, if you're doing all the right things that would push your epigenetics in the right direction, it can help you make those changes way faster.
Really? So it accelerates like the learning?
Yeah, because it makes chromatin basically easier to unravel, for want of a better way of putting it. Obviously, it's dangerous because if you give it to the wrong person who's doing all the wrong things, they can make all the epigenetic changes go the wrong way. But if you're in a really good place and you're doing all the right things, that might be something to look at. So I know that's a tangent, but I would
Super interesting. Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you for that.
I would have forgotten if I didn't mention it.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So where is Marek at right now?
Yeah. Marek's at a great place. We're at an intersection where, we're in our 6th year of business. So grateful for the tribe, the community of members that we have. We've served and been able to help over 50,000 clients. We're still going. My team growth, we're close to 140 team members now. It's incredible to see that people with this unique passion and skill set actually have a vehicle in which they can express their skills and earn a good living doing it. Like, that's one of the things I'm most proud of. But we're changing from a one-dimensional business offering telemedicine to where we are building these subdivisions. So our supplementation line, obviously our direct-to-consumer diagnostics at Marek Diagnostics, and now this performance division. So the performance division launch, again, it's something near and dear to my heart. Phil's become a brother of mine. I can't think of somebody more credible in our space. It's such a great culture fit. And I'm doing all the sales calls with Phil. I'm participating. I'm literally living this program myself. And it's been so awesome to get back to client-facing interactions instead of just working behind the scenes. So through this, I've been able to do hands-on workouts with our clients, talk to them. And then just like you started this call, like this podcast, you were complimenting and showing appreciation. I appreciate that so much, but it's awesome to hear it from the client's point of view. That gives me fuel.
Well, that's important, right? And I've brought this up many times on the podcast, and because when you work in this digital space, I like to use an example of Jim Wendler, like when he was on the site writing and you were following all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
This is back before social media, so the criticism would have come through the Q&A or forums and stuff like that. It's real easy to see the criticism, but there's not a lot of praise, right? And then when he started coaching at the high school out here, complete different perspective change, right? Because it's thank you, coach, every single time, every single workout. There's gratitude. You know, they're physically seeing that all the time, because you don't see that in the digital world as an online coach, right? Tom does not see that as that online coach as much as if he was working in person. The content that he puts out through the YouTube channel and everything else, he doesn't get that, hey, good job. And I probably should tell you good job more often, right? Because he doesn't get that. But what you do see is the lack of comments or the lack of support or the negative stuff. Now, when you're front facing in the real world and you hear that, especially when you're from that digital world, I think it means 10 times more. Oh, yeah. Because it's not there every single day. If you were working with somebody doing a clinic, right? You're doing a clinic with somebody, you see it, you see the PRs, you see all the other stuff. Your coaches don't see that. You don't see that. You don't really see the impact that you have. Right?
I just have a dashboard where I'm interpreting what's happening.
And their financials, right?
So you're
interpreting, right? But it's different when somebody physically tells that person.
100%.
Right. So it's important for anybody working in the online space to understand that they are making a difference and helping people, even if they don't see it. I would say any lack of comment is praise.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll flip that around and prove it, because how often do we or the people listening go and make a praise comment to somebody that we like what we're doing?
You got to go out of your way.
Well, we really rarely do that. Yeah. That doesn't mean that we don't like it. Right. And we don't like the effort that's put into that. So I like to go under the assumption that the lack of that is support and praise. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because if it was really bad, people would let us know. Right. And
they will. They're not going to hold back.
No, I mean, so you get what, so it's
100%.
I would suggest to you to make sure your coaches know that, right? Because it's a different space. 100%. Now they do work with people virtually.
So. They do. Yeah. My coaches are so connected. They are the through point for my customer journey and our members' experience. But I don't get to ride along in those settings. Members of leadership might miss opportunities to ride along. When we do receive praise or people going out of their way, which they do very often, it's meaningful, but I have to admit, sometimes I have to see it for myself to truly believe it, and then appreciate and be so grateful for my team, feel comfortable, and then it provides fuel for what we're doing. Like, this is meaningful beyond a satisfactory transaction for somebody. It is involving their life. They're putting a lot of trust in my business's hands. So that's awesome to see.
So when you sat down with Derek at the start, there was obviously going to be an initial vision, which probably was very ambitious. Like, I would love Marek to be X.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So have you surpassed X? Would be my first question. And what's X been replaced with? Because obviously as you've gotten towards it, you've probably changed your vision.
I would have to say, one thing that has always been true with Derek and myself is that our end visions are very much in alignment and spot on. We have, I'll say from my point of view, we have surpassed what perhaps I thought was going to be capable in this timeline when it comes to impact or team size or some of those metrics and variables. But from the start, because again, Marek is iteration number 4. It's not like it was a brand new idea and this is the first rodeo. This was a decade of learning and failure till something really connected, because we got a couple things right and we're doing other things wrong and we're going to learn from it. But I think we always have shared the impact is that we always want to put our customers first. We don't want to be dogmatic. We want to provide education. We want to keep evolving our practice standards. We want to get more into research. We want to offer more credibility in that sense. And we want to expose more individuals to different ways of thinking about their health and that they can be participants in it. The main driver of our business has always been there is a need for personal empowerment in your medical practices. You should be a participant with your doctor. You deserve to have a say and you deserve to collaborate. So for us, really, it's just continuing that expansion into other worthy verticals and how can we make our ecosystem a more valuable enterprise overall in the health and wellness and optimization field. So no, we had lofty goals from the start. I don't think we have accomplished those, but we're making steamway and stride to get there.
Were there any topics you wanted to go over I didn't bring up?
I really think we covered a lot. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity. I think people do know about Marek. I had a blast just covering some of my experience, and I hope it was helpful for people out there that they're not alone, right? It's just my perspective. But again, I'm a college dropout just outside of Detroit. I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm here. You know what I mean? So maybe that offers somebody something.
I would, one last question. I'm sorry. You know, with the inclusion of Phil Drew in this new division, what is your hope that develops into? Obviously, you know, it's kind of beta testing now, but say someone's watching this in a year's time. Yeah. What are you hoping is kind of on the market through you guys then?
Yeah. My hope at the highest level is that it actually starts to build a mastermind or a connective network between these types of clients. Mm-hmm. So here's one thing I'll say, because even though we're starting virtual, we are working with actual clients in person as well. You need to experience Phil's expertise in person. It is different reading about it, fantasizing about it, watching a YouTube video and thinking I could do that, or this is what it would feel like to do that. Get on the gym floor with him and you are going to be wowed. So one of my biggest goals for this is initially to have some in-person workshops, to have opportunities for the clients to get, for Phil to be in front of them, experience what that's like. And then generally with this offering, kind of like how Beyond has done a great job of creating a clientele network where they stay friends, they have similarities and traits. My hope is that we build a community of like-minded men and women that are living similar experiences of life and goals, whether it be career, whether they're business owners or just fitness pursuits. And I hope to build a community that is a lighthouse. This is, you know, nothing is set in stone, but eventually I would love some physical on-site flagship applications of this stuff. And Derek and myself both are passionate about advancing diagnostics beyond just laboratory measurements with blood. So again, hopefully the next time we talk, we have something more formal to discuss on that end.
All right. So we'll have the ads and the pins and all that stuff for Marek, but how do people go about just finding? Actually, are you going to start posting anything other than like pets and lizards?
I have to. You guys, you see me and it's like a koala picture, but yeah, I am going to start posting. You can find me at Stratton13.
All right. So there's 1, 2, 3,
that might
4,
change.
5. There's 6 people that are going to hold you accountable to this.
I need it.
So like a post a month would be good. Right? It can be a lizard. We don't care.
Just proof of
Just
life.
let us know you're still alive.
100%. Thank you for the advice.
All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I just really appreciate this experience, guys. I appreciate our work together in partnership, and it's just awesome to see this industry through just continuing to grow. So it's cool.
Thank you. This was great.
Cool. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.